2010, the TV show Storage Unit started filming and showed the world that you can make a ton of money over people's forgotten items. It's gotten to the point where people flip a storage unit and make a profit of over $100,000. Ever since the creation of that show, everyone wants a piece of the action, and there have been some incredible finds. So today we're going to be counting down the top 10 luckiest storage unit finds that made people rich. One of the most iconic James Bond cars comes from The Spy Who Loved Me. The car was a 1976 Lotus Esprit, a now classic sports car that was praised at the time for its lightweight frame, fantastic steering, and handling. But Bond's Esprit came with a pretty big difference. It could transform itself from a simple sports car into a fully functional submarine. Now, of course, the car didn't actually transform itself in real life. The film crew used two different Esprits, one that was normal and a special underwater model nicknamed Wet Nelly that actually worked as a real submarine. Back in 1989, it was this underwater version of the Esprit that was uncovered at a Long Island storage container. A contractor decided to buy the contents of the storage container and pay somewhere below $100 without knowing anything that was inside. One day after buying the contents, he and his brother cracked it open to find a giant lump covered in blankets. After removing the blankets, they found the car with no wheels and a dented roof. The pair didn't know what it was at first and had no idea that it actually could be valuable. But that changed in early 2013 when the still anonymous car owner decided to sell the car at auction by RM Auctions. The car was sold to none other than Elon Musk for the high price of $962,839. Elon was apparently disappointed to learn that it couldn't actually transform from normal car to submersible, but planned to turn the car into a fully functional submarine once again. Dan and Laura Dotson are two of the many stars from the reality TV show Storage Wars, which focuses on auctioneers that buy storage units and flip the contents for profit. Back in 2011, the show was witness to its craziest ever storage locker. It was filled to the brim with pirates' treasure. The unit in question was found in Contra Costa, and at first glance, it looked completely ordinary. It's not surprising then that the bidding only went up to $1,000, but unknown to everyone at the time, stored away in a locker was a box of coins. Not any ordinary coins either. These were a piece of 8 Spanish gold, estimated to be from between the 16th and 19th centuries. This bounty of pirates' treasure was appraised and estimated to be worth around $500,000. It was really the find of a lifetime, and they had no idea it was coming. The Beach Boys are a band that was first formed in 1961, almost 80 years ago. You would expect over that time some bits and pieces of their work may have become lost. Well, in the late 2000s, a radio station in Florida bought a storage locker at a blind auction for around $300, and it was filled to the brim with the Beach Boys' work. It turned out that locker had been rented originally in the 1970s, but at some point in 2006, the fees stopped being paid. The contents, which were listed as documents and paper, were then put up for auction to repay the bill and clear out the locker. The documents and papers in question turned out to be a whole bunch of photographs, handwritten lyrics, musical arrangements, contracts, and even royalty checks from the 60s band. The Beach Boys immediately went to court and tried to claim the personal documents and checks back. At the end of an 8-year court battle, which the Beach Boys ended up losing, the archive was sold at a sealed bid auction for over $6 million. It should go without saying that anything related to Elvis Presley that is also a limited edition is probably going to sell for big bucks if it's in decent condition. In 2010, an episode of Storage Wars uncovered just that. The storage unit contained a heap of newspapers, and all of them dated back to August 16, 1977. If you know anything about Elvis, you'll know that this is in fact the day that Elvis Presley died. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but these papers ended up being priced at around $90,000 due to their amazing condition. So we're back talking about Dan Dotson now, all because of one insane storage unit that he sold. The storage unit was sold for $500, and inside it was a safe. Usually storage unit safes have nothing inside them, but this one was completely different. After calling in a safe cracker, it was discovered that there was $7.5 million inside, all in cash. After they had discovered that the storage shed had been sold, the original owners reached out to offer the new owners a deal. If they gave the money back, they could keep $600,000. Now, the new owners weren't exactly fans of that deal though, and instead accepted a double offer, keeping $1.2 million. The new owners of the bin were well within their legal right to keep all the money if they wanted to, so if you had spent $500 on a bin and walked away with over $7 million, would you give any back? Let us know by leaving a comment. There's one comic book in the world that is treated as the true holy grail, the most important out of all of them. That's Action Comics #1, the very first true superhero comic book. Released in June 1938, this comic features the very first appearance of the legendary Superman and is considered the biggest and best in the eyes of collectors. That's probably why one sold on eBay for over $3 million in 2014. But we're going back in time a little bit to 1995, where the Hollywood actor Nick Cage bought a copy of the book. 5 years pass, and that copy was stolen from his home in Los Angeles. Nick Cage considered it a family heirloom. So what exactly does all this have to do with storage units? Well, that very same comic was found in 2011 by the winner of a California storage auction. The copy was sold on ComicConnect.com for over $2 million, but was later seized as stolen property. These days, we all know the Bugatti brand for cars like the Veyron, but they've been around for much longer than that. Back in 1937, Bugatti released 17 Bugatti Type 57 Adelante cars. They're incredibly rare to find and almost impossible to find undamaged. But sitting in a garage in the UK was a completely undamaged Adelante, and it's been sitting there for 48 years. The car had been owned by the very first president of the British Racing Drivers Club, but eventually ended up being owned by a reclusive doctor in the 50s. After driving it for a few years, the doctor parked it in a private garage, and that was where it sat. It is until 2007 when the good doctor unfortunately passed away, and at this point the car was rediscovered. It had its rare chassis, only a little bit more than 26,000 miles on the counter, and a rare supercharged inline 8 engine in super good condition. At the time, it was valued at $4.35 million. Sometimes the most unassuming storage units can end up hiding some pretty interesting secrets. KDKA-TV, which is a CBS-owned Pittsburgh news channel, was doing a feature on storage bins and the people who hunt for treasure in them. One of the storage bins was completely different from the others. It only had 3 items in it: a vacuum, a suitcase, and an empty plastic container. It's something that no one should be spending any money on, let alone the $35 that a regular to the storage yard had spent on it. But that's what separates a good storage hunter from a bad storage hunter, because clearly this guy could see that there was potential that no one else saw. In this case, the something special in question was the backpack that was sitting on the floor. All he spent was $35, and at first he was pulling exactly what you would expect out of the backpack: shoes, purses, and nothing of really any value. Then he dipped his hand into the front pocket and pulled out a white envelope. Inside it was at least 15 $100 bills. He may have spent $35 on a completely terrible looking storage bin, but he walked away a total winner. One of the most famous moments on the show Storage Wars has got to be a moment from back in season 3. This is when Daryl Sheets, a risky gambler of a storage bin buyer, managed to gunslinger bid his way to a massive victory. In this episode, Sheets spent $3,600 on a locker that looked as if it could be interesting, but didn't really have anything too special going on. Well, that was until Daryl brought in an independent art expert to look over a whole load of paintings by the artist Frank Gutierrez. This artist mainly bases his art around surrealism, and while some have disagreed with the appraisal over the years, the show's stated value is worth upwards of $300,000. Sometimes the guys on Storage Wars find themselves one big item in a bin that completely turns things around, making them a whole load of money in the process. Other times, it's the entire storage bin working together to make one incredibly profitable, loads of items worth big bucks. That's what happened in this clip, where Daryl and Brandon find their best locker of season 5. There were plenty of major finds in this bin, ranging from a trunk that the band Kiss had used to old rare Spawn toys and other collectible toys. This is one of those cases that just goes to show you could never judge a bin by how it seems straight away. When checking out storage units, storage hunters aren't actually allowed to enter the storage bin to have a look around. They have to stick on the outside of the bin, take a quick look, and then decide if they want to bid on it. All Daryl and Brandon would have been able to see in this bin is a bunch of cardboard boxes, because that's what all the toys and merch was kept in. It just goes to show that even if you take a gamble on a storage unit that doesn't look particularly impressive, you could really end up walking away with an unexpectedly good locker. But hey, check out this video right now, and I'll see you guys there. Peace.